ladies and gentlemen, have my next guest again. Her name is Jude. Actually, she was in a few episodes ago. She's a deaf doula, and she also does drum circles, and she also does just journey work through drums and changing your brain patterns. I just went through one of them. It was pretty crazy, so I just want to document it. Yeah. How'd I do?
Fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't really like to
Yeah.
ask myself that because you don't want to lower yourself.
Right.
Because there's the intention is just to do it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great.
Tell me more about the brain patterns and how that works. Because what it is she literally has a drum. It's the one where you hold up, and she just drums for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you set an intention right before.
Right.
And apparently when you do it, it changes your brain patterns.
Yes.
Which I was telling you yesterday, I was doing a neural brain scan.
Right. No,
And
that's amazing.
Yeah, me and the guy were like, "Oh, dude, we should just do this, like, because it's mobile, the brain thing, because it's like a USB thing.
Yeah.
You could just do different things with it. Like
Yeah.
I was,
And I know you could see the effects, and the effects, at least what I've heard that's been reported, the effects from shamanic journey work. So using a drum, you can also use a rattle, and some people sing. But using those things can change your brain waves, and the effects last longer than any other plant medicines or any other kind of mm, chemically induced, as opposed to
substances.
any
Right.
substances.
Got it.
But it lights up the same areas of the brain, and the effects last a long time. So
My head
it's
is
pretty cool.
well, my head's still buzzing a little bit,
Yeah.
but I just want to document this and just get it on camera.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what your experience was?
We can. Pretty much the point is to just go to like a lower level and just to meet your like animal self. And mine was what was it, jaguar. I don't want to get into too much detail on it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like I was definitely hearing noises. Definitely hearing noises. That's one thing that really stood out to me. I was like, dude, am I really like hearing things right now? And I'm like, yep, like
Yeah.
different noises, because your brainwaves change.
Right.
And it's not in a so beta is when you're high alert, and then when you go into actually that's alpha, sorry, and then when it's beta you focus more.
Right. I wish I
Yeah.
I knew them
Yeah.
more clearly. I do know that theta is that kind of dream
Yeah,
state.
and then you go into that dream state. So theta is when you lay down on the couch and you're really tired, but you're not asleep.
Yeah.
And you're about to fall asleep. That's where you are. It's kind of that sweet spot. Or when you wake up in the morning and you have to go pee or to get a cup of water,
Uh-huh.
and you're like half dozed, half awake. That's theta.
Yeah.
So when you go there, you're like very creative, and certain things tend to happen. I don't want to say hallucinations, but you're definitely like you have one foot in the dream state and you have one foot in the like reality.
And shamanically, individuals would say you do actually travel, like Edgar Casey,
Yeah.
or so you can travel to different places. I've done shamanic work and I've seen places that were not familiar, but they had images that were distinct, and I've looked them up online and found them as a real place, even though I've never been there
Really?
in my physical body. Yes.
Really?
Yep.
I haven't had anything like that happen to me. That's cool though. That's cool.
Yeah.
The story you told me about your mom,
Right.
that was really trippy. How
Yeah.
she had a near death experience
Mhm.
and someone said let her go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Yep.
actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
What happens to your brain when that drum is constantly going off for like 20 minutes? Like I was relaxing.
Mhm.
I lost a little. I mean, I definitely lost track of time
Mhm.
and space because I wasn't feeling my body.
Mhm.
But I was definitely hearing noises.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about like people talking to me, but like you're just hearing sounds and just a lot of different noises that you really don't hear.
Mhm. Because shamanically, you traveled to the jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying
you
my
were.
consciousness
Yeah.
traveled somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. I mean, I'm still trying
Mhm.
to wrap my head around it, but
I know. And in class when we do shamanic journey work, people will say, "Is it real? Am I imagining it?" And the answer that's always given is yes.
yes, whatever question you ask, like, yeah,
Yes.
I am.
Yes. So you just go with it. Um, but instead of trying to figure out, is it my imagination? I always get confirmation of my journeys. It may be a long while after they're integrated, but I always get a
Yeah,
confirmation that, yeah, like when I work closely with my spirit animals, when I work closely with my guides, things go better for me than when I
nice.
don't. Um, I always work with my guides when someone's dying. Um, they're the ones that assist. I don't do things in the room. If I move somewhere, if I sit with someone, if I put my hand on someone, it's because I'm listening to my guides.
Really. When people say guides, I always think of like angelic beings. I never thought of it
Yeah.
being an animal.
Right. Right.
And I think people, I mean, it can be animal. I don't see why not. Anything can happen. Like,
Right.
yeah, like,
You can
you're
have
talking about,
certain plants that assist you. You can have certain teas
I feel like
that
that
are good for you.
people have lost that connection, though, to animals.
Absolutely.
Because we live in the city. Like, honestly, like, I just work from home on the computer. I talk to people in, like, Philadelphia on a daily basis,
Right.
like I drive to a supermarket to get food. I'm not hunting for anything.
Right.
Yeah, and like this is just like for tens of thousands of years, my ancestors have been doing it a different way. Whether my people are from the forest or and the mountains,
Uh-huh.
I mean, but jungle life is
Right.
similar, just nature.
Yeah.
But now it's like I'm thrown into
Right.
like the big city,
Mhm.
and I feel like I lost that connection to animals.
Yeah.
Like yeah, sometimes people have dogs, sometimes there's one right in front of us,
Right.
and there's people that have like cats. But other than that, like, have you ever seen someone like have a rhino as a pet?
Right.
Like
Right.
that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So like to see how people used to have connections to things like that, and they
Mhm.
kind of like lost it.
Mhm.
What are your
And
thoughts on
can
that?
I absolutely agree. I mean, this was the spiritual practice for hundreds of thousands of years. Um,
Really?
oh
And this
yeah.
is this like a Peruvian practice, or is it more like a Southern American?
W- Shamanistic practice was probably something that started maybe 200,000 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, it's the earliest form of spirituality. Um, and it is similar in all parts of the world.
Actually, now that I think about it, it's very integrated in my culture. I'm Armenian from like Eastern Europe,
Yeah.
and we have the drum, and so my people used to believe in paganism,
Uh-huh.
Zoroastrianism, to be exact. You worship the sun
Yeah.
before they adopted Christianity.
Right.
Like for thousands of, I even have that tattoo.
Yeah.
So what it is even now for weddings, what they do is they always have drums and a flute. That's
Nice.
like the main instruments.
Wow.
And they even have this tradition that carried on. You jump over fire,
Yeah.
the bride and groom,
Mhm.
during the drum and the flute, which like it
Nice.
has nothing to do with Christianity at all.
Right.
But they kept that from the pagan religion.
Yeah, and in a lot of pagan religions, for marriage you jump over a broom.
Really?
Uh-huh. As opposed to fire, but you're jumping over that. And my family is part of my family is Celtic, so Irish in origin, and yeah, they were the shamanic practitioners and the poets. They would do journey work and then come back and bring information. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super interesting. I want to know more what happens to the brain, though. Now I'm just trying to rationalize something that is not very easily able to
you
be
can see
rationalized.
different parts of the brain light up in MRI machines when people do meditation
Hmm.
or shamanic work, drumming work. You can see the brainwaves change.
My brain waves definitely changed. I'm still kind of buzzing.
Hmm.
I feel like I don't know how to explain it. Um, like I just woke up from a nap, like a super powerful nap, but I
Yeah.
never fell asleep.
No.
I was
Right.
not asleep at
Yeah.
all. I was there the whole time. Like I knew where I was.
Hmm.
Maybe some couple minutes I might have known where I was, but I did not fall asleep. I know that for sure. But
Yeah.
that's data like half asleep, half awake state.
Hmm.
Tell me more what happens when you go into gamma. That's like deep, deep.
That I don't know.
Neither do I, but I have speculations.
I would love to know more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So different people have different theories. Even the guy from yesterday,
Uh-huh.
shout out to Jimmy. When we were playing with it, he's like, "Oh, you have gamma." He's like, and this guy's like like he trains with scientists and things
Mhm.
like that. He has like offices that help with depression,
Yeah.
and he even says like, "Hey, gamma's like that's where people have mystical experiences and psychic abilities." I was like, "Wow, I can't believe you just said that." Yeah.
Nice.
So
Well, I do know that one of my first very powerful meditations, um, years ago in the 90s, um, I had a healing that I think we talked about. I stopped smoking,
yeah, yeah, you told me
right?
about
And
that.
I had smoked for
Yeah, you
a
told me.
long time. And so I definitely think it's possible to, um, I don't know, heal from that stuff. You can get healings from shamanic journey work.
Yeah,
Yeah, from your animals, from your guides.
yeah. And for those of you that might not believe it, it's just I feel like you're pausing. You're pausing. Because everyone has a busy, busy lifestyle. They
Mm-hmm.
have their phones, internet, Instagram, this, that. I felt like when I was there, I was literally there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't thinking about other things. I was definitely in the zone. Like you took me in the zone.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it is direct revelation. So you are getting direct information and direct revelation that is significant to you, which is very different from a typical religious perspective. Somebody else gets the revelation and then tells you what to do. This is not like that,
that's controlling people, isn't it?
some would say.
I would
Yeah.
I would definitely say that. Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe they start off with good intentions, but power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Right.
You know, they're like, wow, I could control these people and I could have a bigger house.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of temptation. You know, you change it a little
Well,
bit to
and
benefit you.
shamanic work was demonized by early
Oh, well,
Christianity.
yeah, because
It was.
put a wrench in their
Hmm.
equation.
Right.
Yeah,
So that direct revelation, it's empowering, but there's also accountability and responsibility that comes with it. Um,
but I mean, I'm not trying to influence anyone. This is just me going in,
right.
and I'm not
Yeah.
like going to do anything to anyone. I feel like it's really powerless,
Yeah.
or it's powerful to me because it empowers me.
That's what I mean.
But what I mean is
Right.
like I don't have control over other people's lives. You know,
Nope.
there's
Yeah.
some people that are
Right.
religious. Like you tell them to do something, they're just
Right.
going to go do it.
Right.
That's a lot of power to have.
Yeah. And, anthropologically, if we look at religion and that that is termed as sorcery.
Religion?
If an individual goes in and tries to affect someone else's life,
That's sorcery.
it can be.
I mean,
Absolutely. I'm not saying that religion is sorcery, so don't get me wrong
yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm saying that people who want to control other people can use lots of mystical ways to do that.
yeah.
Um,
Don't they have that thing? I mean, by the way, I like Christianity, so but there's some things I really don't like about it. Like they have that thing where they go in the church and there's a smell,
Incense?
incense. I think you
Yeah.
have that in your house when I walked in.
Uh-huh.
But that mesmerizes people.
Yeah. I
And like,
love incense.
yeah, that
Yeah.
calms you down. Like,
Mhm.
so why would you do it in the church?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like you want to
Yeah.
get them calm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's things like that. So, have you? How long have you been doing it? The drum work. What do you call it exactly?
Shamanic practice.
Shamanic drum practice or just shamanic practice?
Shamanic practice.
Okay.
Yeah, I typically use a drum. I know other people that use rattles. Um, the drum is more powerful for me. Um, I've been doing it probably about 14 years.
Can you tell me some crazy experiences you've had with people? I now want to hear some stories. I feel like mine was pretty mellow.
Um,
Like people crying, yelling.
oh, yeah, people cry. People have healings. People can see and have interactions with their deceased relatives and loved ones. That's not atypical. That's actually pretty typical.
That's pretty typical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can set an intention to meet someone who's
I would say
passed, and you can have a conversation with them.
that's beyond crazy. But then again, it happened to me at Joe Dispenza's retreat. Remember I told you
Right,
when
yeah.
I had like it was bottled up.
Yes.
that my grandfather died. I didn't know how to
Yep.
cope with it or deal with it. And then he didn't really, we didn't have a conversation, but he was just there and he just
Mm-hmm.
like put his hand on my shoulder and I was like, I just started bawling.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it, yes to me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
People would have those
yeah,
same similar experiences.
yeah.
I've had people talk about things that they're working on and things that are difficult for them, and then they'll go in and have a journey, and their guides will tell them ways to work through that, um, even though they're resistant, right? Like someone who's a perfectionist and doesn't like to do anything unless it's perfect, and has all of this kind of angst around that, their guides will tell them to play more. You need to play. You need to have fun. You need to, right? So
That makes
certain
sense.
messages come through that are just, I think, very, very powerful. Sometimes people might fall asleep. That's still a message, right? The experience is the message, the journey. So whatever people are experiencing, um, is it becomes very important to them.
Okay. So the way it works is you just lay down. Honestly, you don't really do anything except just set an intention.
Hmm.
And she has the drum and she just drums for about 20 minutes. And I
Hmm.
feel like when your brain, because your brain is wired to be entertained. When it's just concentrating on that, it's concentrating on the same thing. So you're in a constant loop. This
Hmm.
is how I try to rationalize it.
Yeah.
And your brain patterns change.
Hmm. It takes about 9 minutes
It takes about nine
on
minutes.
average for people's brainwaves to change with the drumming. So
Okay.
that's why you go about 20 or 30 minutes.
How long does it take to come out? Instantly? A minute or so?
Um, yeah, I think it depends on the person. Depends on where they go. Um, but once the drum beat changes, it also changes your brain waves back, right? So you hear that change, and it kind of, I
Yeah.
don't know, gently shakes you back.
Yeah, it does. So it's harder to go in than to come out.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. With practice, it's easier to go in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But also, it always depends on where you are in your life and what you need to hear, right? You might have a whole lot of trouble getting in, but that's a metaphor of a message to what you need to hear, what you need to work on now.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you
So
think like caffeine
all those
and
things come through in metaphor.
do you think like caffeine and stuff like that affect it too? Like if you're hyped up, you're not
Absolutely.
really gonna go in.
Absolutely. I think caffeine, processed foods, sugar, alcohol, other drugs affect your intuition and your awareness
Hmm.
completely. Completely.
Yeah, especially sugar. Apparently,
Hmm.
sugar hinders empathy.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah, I've heard
doubt
this
it.
from numerous people.
Yeah, I think sugar is, I mean, it's hard to get a read on what you're experiencing if you're amped up on sugar.
Yeah. Okay, got that. Oh, I really want to put the cap on to
Yeah,
get the neurofeedback. I'm gonna talk to Jimmy and see what we could do. Yeah, I'm sure he
I
would
would
love it.
love to drum for that.
By the way, you're also mobile, right? If people want to hire you,
Absolutely.
yeah, you'll
Yeah,
do it. You do like, have you
absolutely.
done like various events?
I've read tarot at various
Okay,
events.
but you tomorrow
Um,
you said you have
but
like a
I
tea
have
party.
a, yeah, well, my friend does tea ceremony. Um, Shout out to Meg. She has a business called She Through Tea.
She through tea.
And she is very aware, and she uses ancient ceremony for tea, and she serves tea, certain types of teas. You set an intention, and you sit in silence and drink a number of, it's 3 cups of tea, um, for different reasons. And during that time, um, you sit in silence. It's a very beautiful experience. And then after the tea ceremony, we do a shamanic journey to each individual's sacred garden
Mm-hmm.
to meet the spirit of tea and see what the spirit of tea has to tell us about what's going on in our life now. So that's what we're doing tomorrow night. Saturday, I just do a typical shamanic journey at Crohn's Hollow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that kind of stood out to me now that I'm thinking about it, you said setting attention, and then you said something about imagine you have a dial on your chest and you amp it up so you have high energy.
Yeah. Your vibration's
Yeah,
high.
your vibration. What do you think those two have in common with each other? Your intention and high vibrations.
Um,
Like if you have like a higher energy or like you have like a higher intention with high energy, it tends to work better.
I think so. I think so. Sometimes people also tend to get in their head. So when that happens, we're just taught to breathe back into our heart space. Um, but it's important shamanically to set an intention so that you have a direction of where to go,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not wandering aimlessly um, in one of the three realms
Oh, okay,
that,
okay, okay.
right?
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that.
Um,
So these three realms, is it
so
some?
there's the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world, which is typical in most shamanic practice that I'm familiar with.
Sounds like Christianity too.
Um, yeah, except the lower world doesn't have the negative connotation of hell,
Mm,
right? The higher world is not better than the lower world. They just have different elements and different experiences available. So the middle world is more where you meet elements like rocks and water and fire. So you can meet the element of fire and see what it has to teach you in this moment right now. You could meet the element of water. Um, and those things are so different, right? Water can be very powerful and strong and cut canyons, or it can be very still and deep. So it can have different messages for you at different times in your life.
got it.
So
Got it.
you can meet those things in the middle world. Um,
And you said this is looking behind the veil, in a
yeah,
sense.
in a sense.
Hey, oh, I looked into it. By the way, speaking of veil, you told me that you were born in the veil and your mom was born in the veil, and I was like, oh, this sounds kind of interesting. And I think I had some downtime at work, and
Uh
I hope no one's listening to this from work.
huh.
So I started doodling that stuff, and apparently, especially in like Louisiana and the South, there's like it's very sacred to be born in a veil. It's like 1 out of 25,000 or something like that.
Uh huh.
So and actually, it's around the world too. So the like people that are tend to have like special gifts, as they say.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something that because I've never heard of it until you said it.
Yeah.
It's so ladies and gentlemen, being born in a veil means being born in the embryonic sac. Like when you're giving birth, the embryonic sac breaks and you come out.
Mm-hmm.
But in rare instances, you come out within the embryonic sac, so it doesn't break. You have to
Yeah.
kind of like cut it, or you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So apparently there's something spiritual and mystical
Mm-hmm.
about coming out in the embryonic sac.
Yeah. And my mom would always tell me that she was and that hers was a little bit torn. And then when my dad lived with me, when I was caring for him when he was dying, we were talking about it and he said, "Well, you were too." And I had never known that.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, "I was?" And he said, "Yeah." And usually like in Louisiana and places where it's um
They're very spiritual.
still like held on to those traditions. People keep it. They keep the embryonic sac of the child, and you can wear it as a necklace. You make a special talisman out of it.
Really?
Yeah. Sometimes people would sell it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked my dad if he kept it, and he just looked at me like I was crazy. He
I
was
hear
like, "No,
I hear people eating the placenta. Or
that's a
them.
thing."
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, shout out to Tom Cruise. He's
Yeah, no,
yeah, he
that's a
definitely eats it.
thing. I actually have had friends that have done that.
One of
But
my friends said that he did it, and I was like, "Really? You just grabbed it and ate it?" He's like, "No, bro. It's like they made pills out of it,
oh,
and
interesting.
then you take the pills."
Okay.
I was like, "Yeah, that's more tolerable." But some people just point
I've had
blank.
people cook it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't
Yeah.
know if I could do that.
I'm not sure I could do that.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I don't know if I want to
Me
be there
either. Yeah,
yet.
same.
Yeah, but apparently that has like it brings a bond.
Yeah, Right. Usually, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's could be the whole family. Oftentimes, it's the father.
Really?
hmm
Yeah.
So that he can bond particularly with the child.
Okay.
The mother obviously already has. So it's a way to increase that bond with the father.
So I know for survival reasons. So what happened in the Middle Ages is people would just go into the forest and give birth
hmm
by themselves, and they didn't have any nutrients. So apparently the placenta is high nutritious, so they would
Mm,
eat it themselves. So they
nice.
could have like the nutrients to feed their kid, and then I just come back from the forest.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would go to the forest to have the kid, but hey,
Right.
yeah,
No, that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. I
yeah,
love
that's
different cultural practices.
yeah. What's
Yeah.
one crazy thing about a cultural practice that it's not really crazy, you just find fascinating?
Oh, there are
Celtic?
so many.
Tell me something
Um,
like
in some cultures, like I have to cough again.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, do whatever you need to do. I'll tell you about one that my dad would tell me about. Like
Okay.
when we would go somewhere and said we forget something, when we come back, he's like, when you come back to the house after you're about to travel, you say you forget something, he's like, look in the mirror. And I'm like, why? He's like, just do it, just do it. But I hated that because I'm like, why?
Oh,
And now, of course, I'm gonna be rebellious. And we would get into legit fights over that. Not fist fights, but like verbal. I'm like, why? Like, give me a reason. Like,
that's so funny. My mom would say, sit down and count to 10
yeah,
for the same reason.
really?
Yeah.
That's
I don't know.
Or they would say, don't cut your nails at night. Another thing to that, it's like the old Russian folklore.
Oh,
How the devil
interesting.
would come after you. Yeah,
Huh.
that's when like internet started coming out later on when I grew up.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So don't cut your nails
Well,
at
I
night.
think cultural practices, like, it's very curious to me, like the food that we eat, just in general. We have very specific animal foods that we are okay eating. Other cultures eat different animals,
Yeah,
right? And we think that's weird, right? So some cultures eat dog. Um,
I like dogs. I don't want any dogs.
yeah, I wouldn't want to eat a
Yeah,
dog, but I eat a cow,
mm,
right?
yeah,
Um, I eat pig, chicken, right?
yeah. I love chicken.
But there's this distinction in our culture. We don't eat dogs. So I think it's interesting to kind of look at the things that other cultures do and try to make them a little less strange, right? And then look at our cultural practices and say, okay, why do we do this? Why is it?
Yeah, and
So,
I try to stop saying weird
yeah,
because what's weird for me is not really weird for those people.
right,
They would think like,
right.
you work 9 hours a day and you stare at a
Yeah.
screen in your basement
And you live in a
and
box.
you live in a box. Like you're
Yeah.
so weird, dude. Like you could be in the nature.
Where's your nature? Yeah,
Yeah, seriously.
exactly.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
okay. What else? What about Celtic? Because you said you have like Celtic roots.
I do have Celtic
What's
roots.
one thing interesting about Celtic roots? Is the drum circle also in Celtic
Um,
culture? Or
yes, yeah, they would call it something different, but my family, my ancestral roots originated with Vikings, and then they were Irish, O'Higgins, and they lived in Ireland, and they were poets to the king, but not poet in like
writing poetry?
not that kind of poetry, like shamanic journey work.
Really?
And then bringing back information in metaphor.
Oh, you would love the movie Norman.
I haven't seen it,
Yeah,
but
you should
I will
watch
have
it.
to watch it.
Yeah, it's the Norman. It's like half
Yeah.
of it is about that, about a prince, and they go with his son to do before he becomes a man, they do a ceremony with a shaman, and apparently the funny thing is the shaman is actually before that he's the clown or the jester in front of everyone, but behind closed doors he's the one that gives the king advice.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
that's something interesting
Mhm.
because the whole world he makes it out that the whole world sees him as a joke and the
Yeah.
king is on the pedestal, but he's the one kind of guiding the king
Right.
on a spiritual journey.
Right.
So that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, and was actually, I mean, way back in my ancestral lineage. That was my ancestry.
Nice.
So that I think is powerful to me. Um, and yeah, I wish I knew more about my family from that perspective. I do know that denied Christianity and they had their lands taken from them.
Really?
They had their castles destroyed. And so many of them actually moved to Spain, um, and left because, they didn't want to give up their pagan ways. But then I'm sure in Spain they, became part of the church
Okay.
and that. So,
I
yeah.
One thing I just want to say, it's kind of weird, but I just had a revelation why I don't dream. I just remembered right now. I've been thinking about this for a while, but it just popped into my head. When I was a kid, I used to have really, really, really bad nightmares, like night terrors. And my dad took me to, I mean, I don't want to say a witch, but yeah, I guess like
Yeah.
Armenian culture, like a
Yeah.
witch. And she told me to lay down, and she got a metal bucket with water,
Uh-huh.
and she said some stuff to me and dropped the metal in there. And she's like, just keep this under your bed for a few days or your mattress, and like you'll stop having the nightmares. But I stopped dreaming after that.
Interesting.
I just remember that right now. I need to look into that more.
Well, what's curious is with shamanic work, many individuals who are kind of called to this work or called to spiritual work, called to a spiritual practice, have very violent dreams when they're young.
Yeah, it was pretty
Like
bad.
I used to have very, very violent dreams.
Like,
Beheadings, like very bloody, very violent. And I didn't know what those meant. If I would have been raised in an indigenous culture, I would have been raised completely differently
yeah.
and been taught how to work with that. Um,
Hmm. Interesting.
so I think it's very similar.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's interesting. I just thought about it now because I used to have night terrors with like monsters and stuff like that in my
Uh-huh.
room,
Yeah.
and like seeing things, mom, it's here again, and then
Yeah.
like, I mean, I'm not saying it was actually there. Maybe it was. I have no idea.
Right.
But now it's like deep down in my subconscious, so I kind of got rid of that. But I remember my dad took me to someone, and
Interesting.
yeah, I just remember that right now. I haven't thought about that. I don't know, in like 20, 25 years. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So what I do before I sleep is I have certain animals
Mhm.
watching my door of my room, certain animals that are with me,
Mhm.
to make sure that I'm protected while I sleep.
What about this guy? Your dog?
Oh, she's so good. She
Oh,
sleeps with me.
girl. Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's about it. I just want to just
Cool.
just document this.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Thank you again. That was actually pretty
Absolutely.
cool. I'm definitely gonna work on it. Probably when I come back from Peru. Maybe I could.
Nice.
I'm gonna tell Jimmy when I see him, like, hey, dude, I just went through this. Like, you're gonna have to try it,
Yeah.
and we could maybe have that and just see what
I'll
happens to your
bring my
brain.
drum and we
Yeah,
can monitor what happens to your brain.
nice. It's in Midville, so it's not that far.
Perfect.
Like literally, we could just find out.
I
I don't
would
know, but I could
love
lay
to
down.
do
Can you
that.
sit down on the couch and do it?
Of course.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Jude, I have your information up already, but I'll
Sweet.
put it up for the drum circle.
Thank you.
And you guys should definitely try it because I encourage everyone to try a
Cool.
lot of crazy things.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. It's just try something new.
Yeah.
See what happens. Yeah.
Thank
Right on.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.